So what happens is those are beliefs that go in our brain that stop us from trying. And this is in the context of dance, but we could apply this to fitness. I've always been overweight, whatever. And so they short circuit our brain from going after things. What I did with date nights dancing is removed a lot of the complication, being able to learn quickly. So there is, we don't have to worry about rhythm. That's out. All you have to do is learn these moves. In date night one, we teach the gold package. You teach 11 moves that you can mix and match. So you look like 100. So it's first of all, we have a modular mission now. You just learn these moves, and you'll see how they can mix and match, and you can do it to any music.
Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Bites. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons. Our guest today, Hunter Masters, is the creator of Date Night Dancing, a digital experience that helps couples connect, laugh, and fall in love all over again, right in their living room. Each week, his newsletter, The Spark, delivers playful prompts, romantic date ideas, and simple intimacy rituals to help couples grow closer in just a few minutes a week. Hunter, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. What's the motivation for the date night dancing sort of thing? Have you always been a dancer? Is that your thing, or is it just something you came up with?
Yeah, no, definitely not a dancer, no musical background, sports, weightlifting, all that. I think recorder in third grade was the only attempt at music. But when I moved out, I live in Colorado, and when I moved out here, kind of stumbled upon dance scene and realized it was a good way to meet people. You don't have to drink when you go out, and I was terrible at it. And so, I would see other guys dancing, and I'm like, well, they weren't born knowing how to do this, so I can get better if I invest in training and coaching and practicing, which is essentially what I did with fitness stuff. And so it's like I think I can just repeat that formula here. And that's what I did. And then I started doing a romance tour. I called it around the country, where we would have couples come to a wedding venue, and we would do a little date night where we teach them three moves and some other fun things. And those were really popular, and sold out every one. And then I was like, well, maybe I could like package this after I did like eight or nine of them. I was like, maybe I could bring this to people's living rooms so they don't have to go out, and they can just do it in the privacy of their own home. So that's kind of the quick overview of how that all came about.
Yeah, wow. So yeah, and you had more musical thing than I did because I didn't even do the recorder. I remember kids at school had the recorder, but I just looked at
Mhm.
it and we didn't even have that. So yeah, a couple of my sons are very musical with guitar and drums and stuff, but yeah, I passed it all on to them and didn't have that. Same with dancing. Yeah, like probably 18 months ago, I'm not sure through a YouTube or a Instagram ad or something, however you were marketing your program, I stumbled across it and we downloaded it and had a bit of fun. And at the time, we didn't continue on with it because probably a year before my wife had had a spinal fracture. And we
Mm,
were looking for different ways to exercise with her. But with my serious lack of dancing ability, it was quite challenging for me to be treating her like a China doll, not wanting to aggravate the
yeah,
injury,
practice.
but
Yeah,
still
yeah.
practice. So yeah, but I thought it was great. And then, I still get all your weekly newsletters, The Spark. And
hmm
do you really think we need reminding every week to be romantic?
yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, that's the feedback I get is the number one thing. Oh, thank you for the reminders. Now, maybe it's not every week, and people control their inbox, so maybe they save them and look at them whenever they want. But I think just the little reminders, and more importantly, and you tell me, since you're a reader, it's not just reminders like, hey, send a nice text to your partner today. That's a reminder, right? I want to take it a step further of like, hey, here's a starter prompt of a text that you can send, including where you need to put your own words in. I feel like that removes just a little bit of friction to make it easier for couples to do it because, the one thing we hear all the time is everyone's busy and stressed out of their mind and routines and stuff. So it's like, all right, we got to make these A reminder to me is not good enough. It needs to be like one half a action step away from being able to deploy it and hopefully see also like quick feedback, positive feedback, not only just on, text ideas, but the connection questions and the date ideas and all the other little things um, that I throw in there.
Yeah, and I really enjoy them because they're short and sweet. You know, sometimes I'll get a email from someone that I really want to hear from, and I want to know what they've been doing, but they haven't sent one out in 6 or 12 months, and it's really long. And it's like, oh, dude, can you make this shorter? Whereas yours come out
Hmm.
and they're very short, very sweet, a lot of white space in there. You scroll down slightly, and in a minute you've read the whole thing, and it's solid information. So any guys out there who are like me, their partners think they're not overly romantic or whatever, I would highly recommend signing up for Hunter's newsletter, The Spark. And yeah, short and sweet. Every week or two, it'll pop in your inbox and give you a few ideas. And, some of them I read it and I think, oh, I haven't got the guts to try that. But some of them, but it's great. It's,
Like
it's a
what?
wide variety. Well, to send a text along these lines to your partner about
Hmm.
this, and I'm thinking she would think someone has got hold of my password on my phone, like one of my boys, and
Right,
this did not come from my husband. Like he is not
right.
like that. So I would have to do it a little bit more subtly, but yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a good point, and not in, or it's like, oh, did ChatGPT write this, and I think that's a common objection that I hear, from men, which is, I haven't been sending these types of texts or messages in our 1, 5, 10, 20, 30 year relationship. So for me to suddenly do it now, it is going to raise some alarms of like, okay, who sent this, or, what are you after? Why did you, as far as in their mind. But depending on how far you want to go with it, like an example could be, if the partner is like, hey, this did this come from you, or did one of the sons do this? Like, what is this all about? This is where you could say something along the lines, and again, you put it in your own words, but it's like, listen, like, I really value our relationship, and something I've been reflecting on is like, I want to communicate with you better. I want to romance you more. I want to love on you more. I want to make you feel more connected to me. And so, since I'm not born knowing how to do this, and by the way, no man is, it's like I've sought out some coaching or some training or whatever to help refine how I talk to you. And this was the first exercise that I had to come up with. And even if you are copying and pasting the text, there's still stuff in there that you have to put your own words in. So it is not a just, copy and paste, but it shows like saying something like that, I think will disarm or alleviate any safety concerns that come up in her mind of like, oh wow, like it's almost a double whammy in a good way. It's like, oh, you sent this nice thing and then got poked a little bit about, is this really from you? And then you respond back with a calm, grounded, like, no, like I'm, as a man, like man language is like, I'm investing more in our relationship. That's what that sentence was. So for any woman, reasonable woman, I would think to hear that, like heart's going to flutter more, and connection and stuff is going to start to foster. Now, if you just send it one time and then never again, it's like, oh, we're not building. And it also doesn't mean you have to start sending it every day, but it can become a little game of like, oh, what's like a nice thing I can send, etc.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
Yeah, no, yeah, and I love it because in the message and the guy sending the message and what it's going to create some sort of emotional connection. And the word
hmm.
emotion is energy in motion. So you're creating some energy between the two of you. And like you say, it much to her surprise, her heart will flutter. She will think, wow, this is great. So guys, we've been talking about intuition for a whole lot, like to the listeners here, but now Hunter's bringing in a different version of something that we can do intuitively where we can be led. And I'm always saying to the guys, let your emotions flow. If you're holding emotions within, you're suppressing that down. They can build up invisibly in parts of your body and make you unhealthy. We need to
Hmm.
let our emotions flow. And I believe too, and I have no scientific proof of this, but I believe when we let emotions flow through us, they will help take us to a temporarily to a higher frequency where we can be in contact with the benevolent forces that I believe are there who are trying to send us messages intuitively, if we want to use that word. Guys, if you're on a path of developing your intuition, and I know you are, that's why you're listening here, then the Neurovisor is a tool worth checking out. It uses light and sound to guide your brain into deeper states of awareness, helping you quiet the noise, tap into your inner knowing, and strengthen your intuitive muscle. And who doesn't want that? There's no pills, no fluff, just 11 minutes a day to reset your mind and reconnect with your instincts. I've bought myself one last Christmas and I've added it to my daily practice, and the shifts are real. This is not a paid ad, but if you use the link in the show notes for more information, I do receive a small percentage of the purchase price. I highly recommend you check it out. So, yeah, anything we do that encourages emotion in our lives, and emotions don't last a long time. You think, if have you got a favorite sporting team or something like that? And if like baseball, basketball, NFL, whatever, and they get it, they score, and it's it's a tight game. Bang! All of a sudden, you got that emotion, and you're like, yes. But if I talk to you about it 5 minutes later, that emotional drive is, it's you're still happy, but that it's there for a moment. It's that wave, and that's why I say temporarily for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, that emotion can actually take us to a higher level or to a different level where we're closer to the frequency of hearing these messages. So in one of those emotional states, you might get some kind of thought. So I guess what I'm saying is, with our partners, we raise the emotions for a short amount of time, and intuitive info can come through to help either of us improve our relationship again, just to snowball the whole thing. So, I think what you're doing is wonderful. That's why I've got you on. It's, I need what you have, what you're offering to men. And like you say, it's not a thing you've done your whole life. You realized dancing was a great way to meet people, have fun, and you
Yeah,
probably.
and it just brings so like it's interesting. So before we go into the more into dance stuff, I want to just jump back to the mentioning of joining the spark if you want to be more romantic. And I will
Mhm.
say, as a marketer and a brander, I know that most men will hear that and be like, don't care, don't need to be more romantic. Because that's a word, women will be like, yes, I want more romance. And so they'll sign up, right? But like, I think for guys, and, me too, it's like, well, I happen to like romance, but I know I'm like an odd duck in that sense. But most men hear that and I don't think that's like compelling. I think I don't know the word yet, but the closest thing that I can come to I'm working on is like I romance like romancing provides a sense of safety and boundaries in a way and caring for your partner that kind of unlocks some of that energy you were talking about. So it's tactical utilitarian tips on how to do that and hopefully teaching the principles along the way so that like it starts becoming a natural thing and you see the positive um, feedback of like these interactions. And also a big part is the connection questions, which that's just three questions that are you both ask each other, or you can rotate through and listen, talk. It could take 5 minutes, it could take 10 minutes, whatever, over coffee, but it's a simple way to just build that connection and experience that energy like you were talking about.
And get to know each other better too. That
Yeah.
connection. Yeah. And the better you know your partner, the easier you are able to connect with them, and to get intuitive information come through so that you can be like, oh, I should ask my partner if they want a cup of coffee, or just whatever. And they're like,
Hmm.
oh, I'd love that. Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me, or whatever. And in all honesty, the nicer we make other people's lives, the nicer they make our lives. And it mightn't be directly back from that person, but it might be from another angle. It's just, yeah, it's an upward spiral when we do that and follow that sort of thing. So
Totally.
yeah. Have you got any other digital products that you're thinking of marketing that nothing to do with dancing or anything else like that on the horizon?
Um, Working on some new stuff coming out. I did have a fitness program called a Spartan Rises that, teaches men how to get in shape and kind of the principles behind the mindset of training. I've taken that offline because I was focusing on show at the time. But I may bring that back out. But yeah, I've got a couple things we're working on I'm excited about.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good. Because I mean, since the beginning of this year, like probably just before last Christmas, there's an aquatic center that sort of near where I live that's been renovated for 2 years. They ripped the whole all the swimming pools out, built all new swimming pools, and there's a gym there as well. And I've been learning to swim and stuff again in recent times, and so I started going there. And then because they've got the gym, I thought, oh, I might venture into the gym. And one of my sons is a gym junkie. It's a daily event for him. And so he's sort
Hmm.
of done me up a program on an app and that sort of thing. So I'm heading in there a lot and getting to the gym. But it's without my son here, living here, pushing me, motivating me to get there, yeah, I probably wouldn't have. It's a little bit intimidating. So to have something online is probably a great alternative as well to helping men follow through and do stuff, until that intimidation's gone and you feel like that how to exercise.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have back when I was doing that, I did hear guys talking about the, I guess intimidation factor, or just not want to look dumb maybe when you're in there doing the exercises, but also I think a big thing is what I call like the workout roller coaster, where you watch a movie or whatever, and it's like, I'm motivated and like kind of get all high and start for maybe a week or something, and then kind of fall off and like rinse and repeat. And so what I teach is kind of a system of games and principles of like how to make it fun and see progress outside of the mirror so that we will naturally continue. Because I believe that's the thing, like with any new behaviors and habits, the faster that I can see feedback or progress, doesn't mean the end result, but just progress, the more I'm rewarded and the more I will keep doing the thing. So that's kind of the approach I took when I put this together.
Yeah. I was listening to a longevity podcast a couple of weeks ago, and when we last spoke, you mentioned your age. And on this podcast I was listening to, the gentleman mentioned two milestone ages in our lives where we physically start to drop off a bit and we have to do exercise. And one of them was at your age, and the other was at my age. And so for
Mm,
me now, at 61, I'm sort of thinking this exercising at the gym now has to go on for as long as it can. I don't think I can risk not continuing like purposeful physical exercise now for the rest of my productive life, because you know bone strength, muscle strength really start to drop off apparently from this age
right.
on if you don't do anything. So I've left it till the last minute because I've
Hmm.
never been much of a gym junkie, I can tell you, through my life. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, and middle of last year, last July, which is winter here in Australia, I decided to learn to swim for the first time.
Mm, mm,
Uh, and I'm a scuba instructor. I've always been comfortable under the water, but not on the surface where I'm out of my depth. So, and I've got a
right.
specific goal that I want to meet with the ocean. And so I've been doing laps, and that's hence going to the aquatic center when it reopened just before last Christmas and going there 3 to 4 days a week swimming. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to have to keep this up now. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, it's interesting. I would say kind of going back when you're introducing this thread is like, you don't have to do anything. You do not have to go to the gym, right? It's just you understand there are going to be consequences with your health and maybe, your lifespan may exceed your health span. So your last 10 years, it's like you don't have health. So it's like, oh, why be alive? Can't even do anything. You know what I mean? So, but you don't have, I just, as a freedom and control, he's like, well, you don't have to work out and you don't have to take care of your health. Like none of us do. But we all know, like deep down, like it's good. And then, we can bring it, I want to be around for my children and this and that. And more for me, what's helped lately, because I've gone to the gym probably since I was like 23, for a long time. Now there's been stretches where I was out here and there, but it's been a big part of my life. But what I recently started doing, instead of like saying, okay, I'm going to go 3 days a week or this or that, because my schedule is a little random, is I have the goal this year. My one main goal, which is non-negotiable, is 25 hours a month in the gym. And I have a timer. I track my time all day, but you don't have to do that if that freaks you out. You can just you can track your time for a particular activity. And it doesn't have to be gym. It could be CrossFit. It could be swimming. It could be whatever. But I found time-based challenging goals for the month are just more exciting, and feels a little more fluid with my schedule. And also, let me know if you can think of something else. I haven't been able to think of anything else aside from, we'll just say, exercising. My case, it's weightlifting, but just whatever falls under exercising for you. I don't know if there's anything else that has a guaranteed return on your time. Absolutely guaranteed. Now, it's not guaranteed that you're not going to die. It's not guaranteed that you won't get disease or whatever, but it's absolutely guaranteed that your fitness and your energy, etc., will improve with the time spent. Time spent on a relationship, time spent on a business, time spent, on those two things. There's no guarantee that either of those are going to work. That's part of what makes them exciting. That's part of life, like dynamics. But like with fitness, it is guaranteed for a return. So I don't know. I find peace in that. And it's like, yeah, why, again, 25 hours a month. So just for anyone who's not tracking their time, you're awake about 400, depending on the month, I think it's like 425, 450 hours a month. So 25 hours is, we're not even at 10%. So if we
Yeah.
start looking at the numbers, like, so you're not going to spend 10% of the time that you had, to for a guaranteed return on life. Again, it's not shaming because some people say, hey, I don't want to do that. That's cool. But it's just sometimes rethinking things. I found for me, like rethinking these in this framework and these little games, like makes it more compelling for those times when, I don't have somebody pushing me and it's like, oh, I do need to go work out.
Yeah. So what tech are you using to track the time?
So I use an app called Clockify. They have a website too. It's clockify.me. And you can, do a lot of time tracking. Like you don't even have to pay. They do have, of course, upgraded plans, but you can start out with just the free plan and see if you use it, right? Everything is tested. For me, again, as a marketer, it's like we just test everything. So like try it out for a week. Like, hey, I'm going to test tracking my time for this activity goal I have, or I'm going to track my time for the whole week, however you want to do it. But it's on the phone, easy to start the timer, easy to stop it. And I've been doing it for, about a year and a half, a little over a year.
Right. Okay. So you deliberately start and stop it, and then it just keeps recording it each time it's right. You check time.
Yeah, and it
Interesting.
helps with intentionality because I say what I'm about to do, or what I just finished. Obviously I've got this started with the podcast, so that's what the time's being tracked as, and then there are categories. So later on, I can review my quarters or my months and just get a sense of where's my time going, how much with relationships, how much at the gym, how much on my business, et cetera, and so forth. Because for me, anyways, I was I, I'm trying to eliminate stories that I tell myself. Oh, I'm working so hard. I've been working so much. And I look back and it's like, yeah, you worked 20 hours the last 3 weeks. Like that's not a lot of hard work. So that's okay if that's all you want to do. Cool, right? But like you don't get to clock in 20 hours and then say, yeah, I worked so hard over these last 3 weeks because that's not true. So that's really why I started, is just so I could just audit myself on those kind of things because it feels like I'm working as an entrepreneur because I'm thinking about my business all the time. But thinking about my business, unless I'm journaling and working on models, doesn't count as working on my business for me in my time tracking system.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. No, I'm always curious because I've got four adult sons that are always trying to keep me abreast of technology and things like that. And so, yeah, and I've never really thought of tracking my time on things like that. I just turn up and do it, and off I go.
Hmm.
So yeah, interesting to have something
Well,
like
and
that.
one experiment that comes to mind for me for couples and stuff or guys in a relationship is like, okay, we could track for the month how many hours of focused or quality date night time did we have, right? So you're starting a date, which means, and you have to define those parameters. Like I would throw out, it's like no children, like you two doing something. It could just be playing a game together or having coffee together in the morning, but you're sitting, talking, engaged. So, that count. Again, you define the parameters, but now you can start to see, okay, last month we had 10 hours of date night time, and this month it was two. And you could probably start to connect, oh, I'm not feeling as connected. And we can start bringing it back to data. I know it's not like a, B, C this simple, but I believe that is directionally close versus I feel like our relationship's good or I feel like we're not connecting. It's like, what does that even mean? Like, how do we even measure that? Where do we like, how do we even start to improve, and also can bring peace of like, and you can discuss this with your partners if you guys do it. It's like, hey, let's for this month, 5 hours of date night time. If we can agree, like let's focus on let's do that. And so you guys do it, and then towards the end of the month, feel like, what do we think about that? And that can be a date night discussing like, yeah, we need more, we need less, like that was good, or I feel like, and every couple will be different, so there's no prescription of it needs to be 10 hours, 5 hours, whatever. And there's seasons with kids and vacations and whatever, but like we start to get a framework of like, imagine in 6 months, like, hey, like we're generally humming along like positively in our relationship when we've had 6 hours of quality date night time per month. And it's like, that's again, going back to 450, that's like nothing, as far as the cost. Cause sometimes I think it can feel like, oh, we got to do another date night. And what do I come up with? Well, first of all, you subscribe to the Spark, so you'll have a bunch of ideas. But second of all, I think it would help. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it would help get over that mental resistance because it's like, oh, it's just 6 hours a month. This is our 1 hour, like, and let's make this fun.
Yeah. No, I love all that. And I was telling you last week when we had the chat for a while about, one of the reasons why I downloaded the dancing thing. It was back when I was 14, 15. My mates and I at school, we were going to under 18 discos on a Friday and Saturday night, trying to pick up girls. And at the disco, they were dancing. And, like I can remember being there and just thinking, what would I do if one of these girls asked me to dance? Because
Hmm.
I was too scared to dance. I just felt like a fool. And because I knew I was never going to ask one of them, I always wanted to, fantasized about asking a girl to dance and actually dancing with them, but never did it. So one of my mates, who was a lot cooler than I, he found two guys at school who could dance and talked them into letting him and I go to their house after school. And they tried to teach us to dance for a while, but we were ridiculously hopeless. And I think my mate was more hopeless than I, but we were so stiff. We, like what's that movie? White men can't jump, white men can't dance, like whatever, like we,
Hmm.
we don't have the rhythm like at all. And then I remember going to Arthur Murray's dance school with half a dozen of my mates one night. It's all old people there. We were like 15, and we were desperate. We wanted to be able to dance because we could see that the girls loved it, and but never did. It never happened. And at our wedding, I did. I always, prided myself that I'd do a Fonzie dance, from Happy Days. He would just stand there,
Yeah.
just stand there and not even really move your feet, just sort of rock back and forth and um, barely shuffle. So yeah, I think it's an awesome thing to have a a way that people can learn to dance in their own home, and it's fun. It's not dramatically technical, but it's
No.
dancing, and you could hop up. It's teaching you in a way that you could hop up at a public place and do a few moves with your partner and have some fun and laugh and not step on each other's toes. And yeah, have enough
Yeah,
up intimate physical touch, and then back out at a distance, free moving, just and feeling the energy of the music and the energy of your partner. Yeah, I literally
yeah,
dream that.
yeah. It's very interesting, and I understand the objections because I had them too. Like you said, like, oh, people are born how to dance. I was not one of them, or I got two left feet, or I have no rhythm, because I have no musical background. I have no rhythm. So what happens is those are beliefs that go in our brain that stop us from trying. And this is in the context of dance, but we could apply this to fitness. I've always been overweight, whatever, and so they short circuit our brain from going after things. But what I did with date nights dancing is removed a lot of the complication of being able to learn quickly. So there is, we don't have to worry about rhythm. That's out. All you have to do is learn these moves. In date night one, we teach the gold package. You teach 11 moves that you can mix and match. So you look like 100. So it's first of all, we have a modular mission now. You just learn these moves and you'll see how they can mix and match, and you can do it to any music. So it removes a lot of the barriers, and you can do it at home, so nobody has to see. And yeah, it's set up as a date night because it fosters, quality time, physical touch, connection, intimacy. And you will see, as a man, if you do this with your partner, once you get to, I think it's like move three, the spin and dip, you'll see and discover what I call the dance effect, which is when you spin and dip your partner, like she just lights up, like she just got shot with an adrenaline, epinephrine, or just, I don't even know what it is, love. Like it just works every time. And so instead of thinking, oh, I don't want to learn how to dance, because I get like that may not be appealing for some guys. It's just like, if there was a way that you could acquire a tool and you use this tool that's going to greatly improve your relationship, greatly improve your connection with your partner. From what I've heard from a lot of my customers, like greatly improve things in the bedroom and how often we go to the bedroom. Like, why would you not give that a try? Um, as far as, doing something that would make her happy. And here's the thing, like, because I've had thousands of people buy this. Like, I've had customers tell me that there are babies that exist, because of this program. So I'm like, oh, did you name them after one of the dancers? I don't know, but and couples use it for their first dance and stuff. But a lot of guys really, once they turn that corner, they're like, oh man. And I'm not saying you get to turn into a dance fiend. It's just it becomes another tool in the toolbox. That, hey, like, let's have a dance in the kitchen. She's upset. Like, let's do a dance in the kitchen. Boom, emotions cleared out. Not every time, but very often that you would be surprised how much a dance can fix emotional turbulence. You still may need to talk about things later, but it's a good way to lead. And if we go deeper a little bit into dancing, like it's the only physical thing that I can think of that teaches a man how to lead physically, and so you can start making connections because basically if you're what I teach in the program, and that's why the brand is called Show Her Off Dance, because when it comes to dance, the woman is the artwork. If we're in a museum, she's the painting, she's the artwork that everyone's coming to see. We as men are the frame, right? So we accent the artwork, we make it pop, but no one's coming to the museum to look at the frame. They don't care. So if anything, that can reduce your fear in your mind because no one's even looking at you. They're all looking at her. And so if she's smiling, that means I'm doing my job. We're on point with the mission. This is great, et cetera, because I've provided a frame that makes her feel safe and able to glow and be in her energy. Back to what you were saying.
Yeah, interesting you say that because when you watch, ballroom dancing or whatever, Torval and Dean doing their ice skating thing, most eyes are on the lady rather than the man. And your description of the man being the frame is, I'd never heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense. And then you
Yeah,
mentioned,
my dance instructor told me that. My
oh,
female dance instructor, that was one of the first things she taught me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And it
interesting.
helped click and gave me like, oh, okay, now I know my job, right? Because if I say dance, it's like, what does that even mean? But now it's like, oh, okay, I need to show her off and make her look good. So that at least gives me a direction. And it's like, what do I need to do that? Oh, I need to learn a couple of these moves, mix and match. We have fun. Da da da. Da. Remember, it's the whole goal is to have fun. We're not. This is not professional dancing. That's also why so many people can do it because I say up front, like you're not going to go on Dancing with the Stars with this stuff. You will be able to go out and people will come up to you if you're at a concert dancing and stuff, because I've had a lot of customers tell me that, but this is not ballroom dancing. This is not professional dancing because that does take years and years of work and nuanced skill development to acquire. But you don't have to. I think this is a leap because I had this block. You don't have like some guys, or I used to think, oh, dance with me. Oh, in my mind, it's like I need to be like that professional guy in Dancing with the Stars to dance with you. That's I'm not anywhere close to that, so therefore, boop, I'm out, right? But that's not actually true. We have a baseline, easy these couple moves, learn these, and it's like, oh, I get to check the box. I'm dancing with you. We're having fun, and it didn't take 3 years of daily training to acquire that skill.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you said earlier about if, things aren't going wonderful between you and your partner, you've had like a bit of an argument or whatever, and you just grabbed her in the kitchen and started giving her a twirl or a dip or whatever, how the energy would change because there's emotions there prior to that
Absolutely.
that aren't ones we enjoy. I won't call them good or
Right.
bad, but right. And so
Hmm.
again, emotion, energy in motion, you start energetically moving, and that helps to disperse that emotion that's not being enjoyed, and it's converting it into different energy that we do enjoy. And so
Right. Versus letting it build up and potentially explode, right?
yeah, yeah. Or let it build up and fester, and it's invisible,
Yeah.
and it can
Yeah.
build up and fester in parts of our body. And years later, we can go, oh, I've just this terrible lump in my neck. Oh, I've got this terrible thing, my spleen's gone funny, or something like that. It's emotions, energy built up in that part of the body because we didn't release it. And the dance creates energy. It can help yeah, it can help balance things, help move things, because energy is made to move. It's not made to
Hmm.
stagnate and sit in one spot and build up and hold it. So we need, when we do that, we literally, because I've studied all sorts of energy medicine and all sorts of different things. I'm not a certified practitioner in them, but I've been and done enough training with them for several days in quite a few different modalities to know enough about them and how it works and the energy. We've got to keep the energy, got to take the stagnant energy and get it moving and just let it flow back into the system again. It's like having a flowing, like some water that's flowing, and now we've diverted some of it into a little pond and it sits and it stagnates. We've got to
Hmm.
somehow get that stagnant water. And which water would you rather sit in or drink? The one that's flowing down the creek or the one that's been sitting stagnant for a week? So if we can join that stagnant water up by digging a little trench through and joining it back into the flowing water, now we let it flow and move again, and it's back in its natural state, flowing, and it's a more pleasant to drink because it's or partake of. So yeah, so the dancing and making it easy for us guys to not have to do full on lessons and all sorts of stuff. Because I have actually too, I've just remembered now. Um, I went and did ballroom dancing lessons a couple of years ago for a while. And it was and the idea was it was when my wife, she'd fractured the part of her spine.
Hmm.
She couldn't, she had to do very limited type of exercise. So we thought, well, if I learn to dance while you're like that, because she could already dance, when you're better, we'll be able to do it. So with a professional female dance instructor and my wife watching, like I went and did a few moves and sort of I couldn't do them now because I have, you use it or you lose it. And I
Right.
did practice while
Repetition.
I was doing but yeah, and it was enjoyable and I was quite proud of myself that I cracked a few of these moves. But the type of dance I was learning it's very limited where we live on to learn the type of dancing that you teach. So like, and
Yeah.
if with ballroom dancing, that sort of thing, like you're learning to get some moves, but it's not something you can do when you go out to the local club for the night and there's a
No.
70s band
No.
playing. Like it's like I can't do that dancing here. So yeah.
Yeah. It's basically what I teach is I call it social swing dancing. and everything else is professional dancing, and it's kind of like American NFL football versus flag football. Like flag football is still fun. You're playing football and maybe tackle football with a pad. Like you're still playing football, but you are not an NFL player. And yeah, you wouldn't go to a bar and try to do a waltz or a foxtrot or something that takes a lot of space and needs a particular song and like everyone else out of like that just doesn't fit there. But social swing, like you can have a little corner, you do your moves, and like it looks cool, and you have that connection and fun. But and there are plenty of people who've done my program and then they graduate and they go do professional lessons because they want to do that. But there is a clear divide, and not saying one is better than the other. It's just they're different approaches.
And people who've done yours, you obviously gave them the confidence to then go
Hmm.
on to try something
Right.
more
Yeah.
advanced. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because they
Because
learn, they're like, oh, I can apply time, I can practice this, and we get better, and like we're having fun. Once couples like experience that, which usually happens when they start the program within the first 60 minutes, but it varies. But once they kind of click, then it's like, oh, let's do this. And we've built the confidence. They learn the moves, they go out, it works. And then it's like, hey, some people are like, good, that's good. We learned enough. Other people are like, you know what? Let's level up and let's go do West Coast swing or foxtrot or, some other professional dance that I was talking earlier, it's a longer time between positive feedback loops, because then you're learning rhythm, your counts, they have to be particular songs. And like you said, if you don't use it consistently, you kind of lose it up until a point. So it's more challenging. So to jump right into that can be tough if you're starting at zero.
So I've got to say, Hunter, the theme of the podcast is men developing their intuition. And whether you realize it or not, I think when you develop this program, there were benevolent forces in the universe that had your best interest and the best interest of a lot of other people on the planet who were one day going to tap into your programs. Like they had their best interest at heart as well. And so whether you think it or not, I think in my opinion, for me, you were intuitively led to start this program. You might think that's a load of crap, Doug. Like wasn't, but that's how I look at it. That
Hmm.
you were used in one way or another to bring, like you created babies, like you said. Like people have gone beyond the dance and got
Hmm.
used. The energy got multiplied, and
Right.
less than a year later, there's babies popping out, and
Mm.
so yeah, you've affected. I remember listening to a motivational speaker here in Australia many many years ago, a guy called Peter Daniels, and I went and saw him like for a whole day speak, and I bought the set of cassette tapes because this is a long time ago, and during his speech that day, he said these words: "You can change the world in your lifetime." And it hit me when he said that. And at that time, I was driving like about an hour to work each way. And I would have that cassette on in the car and I'd be listening to his speech. And when he would get to that bit, there was the rewind button on the in the car cassette player. And I had it down perfect and I could hit rewind for the perfect amount of time for him to repeat, "You can change the world in your lifetime." Replay, "You can change the world in your life." And I'd rewind that thing 35 times in a row as I'm driving up the highway. Just keep, and I had that instilled in my brain. So you've changed the world in your lifetime, not the whole world,
Mm.
but you have
Hmm.
changed part of the world. And I think, again, I believe in life after death. I don't expect anyone else to, but I believe when I'm not here anymore, I'm going to have a life review and I'm going to get to see what I did, the people who I didn't make happy, and I'm going to see the people I did make happy. And I think there's going to be so many things. I think there's going to be a lot of places where I didn't realize I was making people unhappy. And I think there's going to be a lot of places where there was a lot of things I did and a lot of people I affected that I had zero idea. Um, and I think the program you've put together is awesome. Hence why when I started really thinking about it, when I kept getting your newsletters and stuff like that, I'm thinking, this guy's onto something. Like this is, in my opinion, he's following his intuition, whether he realizes it or not. And I'm just curious, before, like, you might think everything I just said then is like a load of rubbish, But does any of that make sense? Did you ever have these thoughts before that you were doing something that was more than just a money making effort for yourself? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it was not a money making effort in the beginning because it didn't make any money. In fact, it cost me a lot of money doing all those romance tours and everything. I lost it. So yeah, it resonates. I mean, I don't use that language. Like for me internally, one of my principles is follow the energy, which I think is kind of similar to what you're saying, which is to me, that means follow things that excite me, that scare me. Fear compass is another principle. And so as long as I'm doing that, things will work out for me, not in a manifesting kind of way, but more in just a trusting. If I'm following the energy, that means I'm doing things that I'm excited about. It means I'm working hard. It means I'm learning. Like I love to learn. I love to read, and I like to simplify and share things with people, kind of 80/20. So it's like I like to go in my mind. This is how I view. I go take all the arrows, make all the mistakes, look like an idiot, blah blah blah, do all the failures. And then for anyone else who wants to accomplish the same thing, whether it was fitness or dance, or I'm working on it with music right now, here's like the path that worked for me. Like here's the simple steps to just get you started and get those quick feedback loops so that you don't get like taken out early. So yeah, that I understand what you're saying and I relate to it as far as, just internally for me, it's like following the energy.
Mm. You said there you like to read. Is there anything specific that you read a lot of, like themes
It's
or?
not Yeah, it's 99% nonfiction. Depends on what's going on, self-development, marketing, propaganda, advertising, relationships, a lot of stuff on that. Music. So it's kind of whatever I want to learn more about. Right now, a lot of neurochemistry stuff because that's kind of got my brain chemicals and all that. It's got my attention at the moment. So yeah, big decent range. I mean, I'm not reading like physics books, so I guess I can't say like massive range, but like
Yeah.
a decent
Yeah.
range.
Any particular favorite book over the years?
Um, I mean, it would depend on, I guess I'll say for just me personally, and then if there's a book about solving X problem, I could tell you that too. But um, I think The Expectation Effect is a very, very good book. A lot of science in it, and talking about just it just really shows the power of how much our expectations shape everything. And I just think, yeah, I try to read that once a year because it's pretty solid as far as like a universal, book to take in.
Right. Okay, I haven't heard of that one. I just wrote it down. So yeah, interesting. I'll look that up because I have, I listen to ebooks while I'm driving and all sorts of things.
Hmm.
So yeah. Just to change topics slightly, throw another question at you. This might be a big question or it might be just a basic question. What's your greatest fear?
I think it would be, wasting my potential or not living up to my potential or shrinking back from life more often than not. Like I'm not going to sit here and say I've never done that, right? I've certainly been scared and not done things and certainly like been in seasons where I'm not operating or growing in peak potential, but like on the macro, I want much more operating, striving, going for peak potential. And that doesn't mean it's not tied to like particular money goals or whatever goals. It's an internal gauge knowing like, am I pushing myself? And so to look, I try to think about, okay, 100, on my deathbed, thinking positively, like, I don't want to look back and be like, would I regret this? Would I regret this or this if I'm trying to decide between things? It helps me just navigate, um, the choices and what I focus on. And, learning and accepting is like, oh, I can't do everything. So like, let's pick the things and focus on those and be appreciative and grateful for the limited time that I get to experience on here and the relationships and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear that. That's something that's motivated me through the years is not wanting to say two words, and those are if only. Getting
Mm,
later on in your life and going, if only I had tried that. I wanted to do it. I thought about it a lot, and I didn't have the guts to do it at the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. And to me, that's the theme of what you've just been saying. So yeah,
Yeah, and
it's a
that's
healthy fear, I think.
I think so. I mean, even if it isn't, it's what I have, and like what I, what I wrestle with specifically with it now is with music, because I've got 13 songs out. I started in 2020, and for me, my first song that I released, I took some singing lessons, 20s by 18, 19, whatever. So getting started, and the first song I released, like, I think it has like 2 million streams, which for me as a nobody, I'm like, wow, this is awesome, right? And so that gave me momentum and like took even more lessons, bought better gear, learned Pro Tools, learned songwriting. I mean, took songwriting courses and kept releasing songs. And like, no, every other song was just boop, 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 like lower than the first one. So it's like, wait a second, I'm like working harder on this and like the results are going down. Like, what is going on? And it's frustrating and it's hard and it's like I've had to take breaks and seasons of like I'm not going to work on this right now, but like going back to the fears, like man, if I'm on my deathbed and I can't honestly say to myself because I can't control if a song does well, right? But so we can't. I don't want to have I certainly hope, but I'm not going to set that as deathbed criteria because that's out of my control. But what can I control? Well, my effort and my input. So if I'm on my deathbed and I can't say to myself, "Hey, you gave music the best shot you could," as far as your resources with money and time and effort. If I can't say that, I think I would be sorely disappointed in myself. And so that's like specifically what I'm kind of like working on right now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I think with music and creativity stuff like that, it's hard to know what the world wants, what they're going to need, and why that first song has streamed a lot more than the others. And when you would probably think some of the others are better than that one, it's hard to know. And I know my niece, she's very creative, and she's in her early 40s, and she does a lot of children's songs. She's got a children's album out because she found that glitch. It's a part of the music that she likes to create, but there's a real gap there where for young children, like nice songs that their parents enjoy listening to as well. And
Hmm.
so she's got to the point now because I know she's quite humble. She doesn't sort of say a whole lot, but she did let us know that on if you're on a Qantas flight and you go on there and you look up all the free music to listen to, if you click the children's section, there's her music. And
Oh, nice.
then I was on Instagram about a year ago, and I put little videos on, and my sons are saying to me, "Dad, you have to put background music on with that video. Like you've just got to like." I said, "Well, how do you do that?" And here, it's already built in. And I'm bringing it up, and so I'm then thinking I'm very clever, and I'm bringing up, and then I'm scrolling through, and I'm going, "That's my niece's music. That's my niece."
Oh, nice.
So she's on Instagram as well, and she gets like a very slight little royalty every time someone select. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my God, like like she's put it out there, and they don't have to take it on, but they have taken it on. And she's not a famous performer, but she lives in Sydney. She's performed at the Opera House, and kids music. It's the most basic sort of stuff, and she does stuff in the parks. She has prearranged things, and has 20 friends turn up with all their little kids, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they sing kids songs. And yeah, it's whatever your
That's
passion is.
cool. Good for
Yeah,
her. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just creating. I think creating's important. Whatever.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be music, but like, and it doesn't have to be something that even is shared with the world. I think just creating is a innate need for our spirit or soul or whatever you want to call it.
yeah. All right. So I've got one last question for you, and this might be a biggie or it might be a basic question. But if your microphone that you're connected to right now was connected to all 8.2 billion people on the planet right now, and you knew they wouldn't judge, blame, or shame you for anything you said, Hunter, what would you say to them?
I would say you can do it and fear, I would say actually, so I'll start over. I would say here's something to test. use fear as a compass. And I believe that you can do it and you can get through it. But I believe, I'll say it has served me well when I do that. It seems to unlock more of life's rewards. And so that's worked well for me. Not saying it's going to work, guaranteeing it's going to work for you, but I think it's a worthwhile test. Try it for 7 days, try it for 30 days. Like it's very easy if you have that in front of your mind. Fear is a compass. Like, what am I scared of? And like go towards it and kind of let go and just see what happens. Experiment.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to put your contact info, like so people can sign up for the Spark newsletter and your websites and all that sort of stuff. That info will be in the show notes for everyone. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to mention before we go?
Nothing comes to mind. I mean, I keep talking for a long time. It's fun. I've enjoyed this and appreciated it. But no, yeah, I think we covered some good
Good.
stuff.
Good. Yeah, and that just means we've covered it. Yeah, like and I
Mhm.
think what there's been some fantastic information there for all the men listening to inspire. And this one's been quite different. The topic that we're talking about, getting out dancing, because it's not sort of a thing that's a normal part of my life. So this is a stretch for me. So it's like, yeah, guys, we need to get some variety in our lives and experience energy
Well,
in a different way.
yeah, it's like again, it's like you don't have to do anything, right? So I'm not saying you have to dance. By no means am I saying you have to dance. Like all I'm saying, or at least throwing out there is like, here's another potential tool in your toolbox to enhance your relationship, to teach you a lot of things as far as how to lead in your relationship, which will also transfer outside, but we'll just keep it small for now and bring more joy and intimacy, both emotional and physical, to your relationship. And again, it's not, oh, now I'm a dancer. I got to dance every day. It's a tool in the toolbox, right? All the tool. Do you like? Oh, I have a hammer, so I have to hammer everything. No, that's why we have multiple tools in the toolbox. And sometimes, like you referenced earlier, when we're in the kitchen and maybe there's an argument starting, you can be the grounding, energetic force and say, hey, let's time out real quick. We can pick this up later, but let me dance with you, baby. And like just convert that energy. So why would you not? Why would you not want to? I, it would probably be advantageous, and you can test this and see for yourself, but to have a screwdriver, this special screwdriver in your toolbox. That's kind of my loose claim, and it doesn't require a big investment to figure out, how useful that is.
And I say that to people too with intuition. It's a tool in
Mm-hmm.
your toolbox. It's not the answer to everything, but it's
Hmm.
advantageous and it makes life easier when we have that tool as well. So yeah,
Totally.
yeah, awesome. All right. Thanks for your time, Hunter. Really appreciated it. And yeah, I'm sure all the men listening have enjoyed it and had a great time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're at the end of another thought provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition, it will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.